Hi, my name is Brian Kouwenhoven with Kouwenhoven Associates. We're an agency located in Florida that specializes in professional liability insurance, and I've been given the opportunity to speak to you today on how to purchase professional liability insurance, not only for a new attorney that recently passed the bar and is going to practice on their own, but also an attorney that might be with an established law firm that's made the decision to branch off and start their own law firm. So if you could bear with me, I know this is a fun subject, but the information I'm going to provide with you today is intended to enable you to purchase the insurance efficiently so you can move forward with starting to practice law. You've now, whether, like I said, you've now passed the bar exam or you're leaving a law firm, it's good that you know the terminology that's out there when it comes to this type of insurance. You'll hear it referred to as malpractice insurance, lawyer's malpractice insurance, lawyer's professional liability insurance, E&O insurance, errors and omissions insurance. When you hear those terms thrown at you, you'll know immediately that it's all one and the same. It just depends on who you're talking to and how they're referring to it. That way it avoids you having to ask people, wait, is this the right insurance I'm applying for, and such. So know those terms when you start the process. The other thing you want to understand is why do you need the insurance? Several reasons. One is if you're practicing law and you actually have a claim that you want your client or clients to be made whole as best they can. That protects your reputation out in the marketplace. Another reason is you might have a client or two or several that require you to carry professional liability insurance, and it's important that you know up front exactly what limits they're going to require you to carry so that you can purchase the right limit at the beginning. If you're going to be wanting referrals from the Florida Bar, local Florida Bar Association, they require that you have a minimum of $100,000 per claim, $300,000 aggregate. So you need to have insurance to obtain those referrals. If you're accepting referrals from other law firms, you'll notice on the applications that they ask if you take referrals from other law firms. Those other law firms are going to require that you maintain professional liability insurance at adequate limits, and we'll talk about that later on in the presentation. In addition to that, if you're referring out to clients, you'll want to do the same. You'll want to make sure that the firms that you're referring to maintain professional liability insurance. Now, to get the process started, you're going to want to establish who you're going to work with, be it one broker or two brokers. We don't recommend more than two because there's not a lot of insurance companies out in the marketplace that are insuring small firms for professional liability insurance. So you don't want to get too many people involved that are going to be stepping on each other and they're going to be coming back to you, with complaints that I got blocked at this market or this market. So keep it very simple. Ask your peers who they're dealing with. Ask if you're dealing with a law firm consulting that helps small firms get started in their practice, ask who they recommend. I stay necessarily away from the internet because that can get very confusing because you're going to be thrown agents from all over the country. So the best thing is to stick with your peers, ask who they are. When you've identified a couple of brokers, interview those brokers as your clients are going to interview you. Okay, so ask them questions, see if they're knowledgeable in the areas of professional liability insurance. Ask them how many law firms they're currently working with for professional liability insurance, so you know that they're going to be able to educate you properly. Once you've established those ground rules, you want to ask them to provide you with a list of carriers. If you have one broker that you're a little bit more confident in than the other, give them the first opportunity to give you 2 or 3 carriers that they want to shop on your behalf, and then give a couple, 2 to 3 carriers to the other agent, and then let them go out and canvass those carriers to bring you quotes. Makes it much more efficient. Another thing I'd ask you to do is don't complete multiple applications. If you've established a broker or two, complete the most thorough application you can, and then once that's completed, you will turn that application over to both brokers and have them go to the market with the same application. Now, once the process is done and you've selected a carrier, it could be that that carrier requires their own application, so you may have to complete one more application. okay? But that will make the process for you much more efficient, and you know that the information going out to the marketplace is the same for all the carriers, okay? Before contacting anybody, though, let's go to that process, because you want to have as much information on the front end when you're having that conversation with a broker than having to follow back up with them later. So first thing they're going to ask you is, what are the areas of practice that you're dealing in? And it's got to equal 100%. So if you plan on, and you never know what the future holds, but just starting out with a new policy, you really want to make a best guesstimate of what you're looking to target, what areas of practice. For example, if you're going to go after personal injury, plaintiff, criminal defense, maybe some family law, you want to give an idea that I'm going to try to do 50% in the personal injury plaintiff area, 40% in the criminal defense, and 10% in family law. So it's going to equal 100%. Now those numbers could change during the year, and that's okay. You need to track those percentages. So when you come up for renewal, you can provide the actual areas of practice percentages for that previous year so that they can adjust the rate or do whatever they need to do on the next renewal. Okay, so know, you have an idea of what you're going to do. You're going to need a backup attorney if you're a solo. So reach out to some of your peers that might be practicing, ask them if in the event of your extended illness or you're out on vacation for an extended period of time, that you have a nice backup that can come in and take care of any issues while you're away, so that things don't get out of hand at your practice. So, and you want to make sure that that attorney also maintains professional liability insurance. Then look at your practice internal procedures. Are you going to have a case management system? Are you going to have a computerized docketing system? Are you going to have a computerized conflict of interest systems? These are questions that the agents are going to ask you so that they can get an idea of how computerized your firm's going to be. That helps with your premiums, so they can give you a better estimate. Will you be using engagement letters, non-engagement letters, declination letters on a regular basis? Most carriers would like to see you using those letters 90% of the time, and certainly 100% of the time is the best. Will you have support staff, or will you just be working by yourself? Some carriers, if you do not have some type of support staff to be a second set of eyes and ears, they may not offer quotes to you, so that's important for you to tell the agent before they send your application to a market that's just going to turn around and decline you because you don't have a secretary or an assistant. Will you be sharing office space with another law firm? There'll be some questions that come into that. If you have separate signage, are you distinguishing yourself from that other law firm to make sure that you're not going to be brought into a claim involving that other law firm, and vice versa? If you've been in practice and you're leaving a law firm, it would be good for you to have handy your 5-year claims history and disciplinary proceedings history together, so that you can provide that to the brokers up front, so they can take a look and know what strategy they need to take before they even send your information out to the carriers. Okay. Next step is determining what limits and deductibles you're going to require. This gets a little difficult for a new attorney just starting their law firm, because of course you have a lot of expenses, and we found that most attorneys that are starting a firm tend to start off with a little bit lower limits, and then as they renew each year, those limits are going to increase as the complexity of their law practice increases. But that's something you talk to your broker about. Again, determine limits could be, as we talked about early on in the presentation, it could be a client that's requiring you to carry a certain limit. Like, for example, if you're going to be doing real estate closings, the title companies out there require mainly a minimum of $250,000 per claim. There are some other title companies that require you to carry $1 million, or they require you to carry a limit that's equal to the largest closing you're going to handle for them. So you really need to find that information out on the front end before you purchase your first policy, find out what your client requirements are. For small firms, we recommend carrying a $5,000 per claim deductible or less. The savings for higher deductibles just isn't enough to justify you taking on more out-of-pocket exposure in the event you did have a claim. So I can tell you that the average limit carried by law firms in the state of Florida is about $1 million per claim, million aggregate. Again, just starting out, you might start off at a lower limit and then look at bumping that up at renewal. But something you need to keep in mind is these are claims-made policies, and the very first year that you start off buying professional liability insurance is going to be at its least expensive premium. Every year you renew that policy, for the first 5 or 6 years, depending on the carrier, you're going to experience a step rate increase because you're adding on additional year of prior acts coverage. For example, if your premium the first year is $1,000, when you renew your premium going into the second year, they're going to charge you another $1,000, and they're going to surcharge you 50% for that very first year of coverage. So going into year 2, your premium automatically is going to be $1,500. Going into year 3, they're going to charge you $1,000, surcharge you for that second year, which is $500, and they're going to continue to surcharge you for that very first year of coverage, probably $200 to $300. So you'll see your premium in year 3 go up to $1,700, $1,800. I'm telling you this because that's not explained enough out there. So we get calls from attorneys that are upset their premiums are increasing, but they just haven't been explained properly the claims-made factors and the step rate factors of renewing your policy every year. I give the example of, imagine a basket in the middle of your room, and every day you practice law, you're throwing risk into that basket, so the chances of a claim arising out of that growing risk is going to get greater each year you continue to practice. That's why the premium goes up. But after about 5 or 6 years, that starts to level off, and then you're going to get into some other factors that may increase your premium, and that's going to be adding attorneys, if you had any claims or disciplinary proceedings, issues, that's going to increase your premium. And if you shift your areas of practice, if you start off in a low-risk area of criminal defense and you eventually, transition into personal injury plaintiff, you're going to see your premium go from very cheap to very expensive real quick. But it's all relative. If you're successful with personal injury plaintiff, you're going to make more money, so your premium is going to be higher because there's greater risk. Another issue that I'd like to share with new attorneys just getting started is make your shopping process about a 3-year minimum process. In other words, don't shop every year looking for a cheaper price, because underwriters really want to see attorneys have some type of longevity or loyalty to the carriers. They'll give you the best premiums if you stick with them. If after 3 years you want to test the market, that's the time to do it. Make sure you still have a good premium. If somebody comes in real low, then at that point you get with your broker and you make a decision as to whether or not it makes sense to move carriers. But it's an expensive, time-consuming process, and our recommendation is to not do it every year. Do it every 3 years at a minimum. Okay. That's about it, guys. I hope that these steps that we've gone through help you to efficiently purchase professional liability insurance. It's a very complicated area, but knowing these tools and having conversations with your brokers and having this information together, I guarantee you will make the process go a lot more quickly and efficiently so that you can move on to practicing law. Thank you very much.